Long ago, between mist-covered mountains and valleys forgotten by time, there was a simple village where houses were made of stone and hope. There lived Leon, a shepherd with a peaceful soul, and his wife Sora. They worked hard. From sunrise to sunset, they tended sheep, planted barley, and at night they sat together by the fire, talking about the dream that never came true, having a child. Time passed, and the silence of the empty crib weighed more heavily with each winter. One night, the wind began to roar across the hills as if the sky itself were weeping. Leon went out to shelter his sheep, and, amid the sound of rain and thunder, he heard something, a cry, faint, distant, like the sound of a lost soul. He followed the sound to an ancient tree, and there, lying on its roots, he found a baby wrapped in a blue cloak, embroidered with gold thread. On the cloth was the symbol of a wing and a flame intertwined. The boy was cold, but alive. Leon took him in her arms and ran home. Sora greeted him with astonishment and tears. "Where did he come from?" she asked, sobbing. Leon simply replied, "From the wind, Sora. The wind brought him to us." She wrapped him in warm cloths and whispered, "Then your name will be Kale, he who came from the wind." The years passed. Kale grew strong, serene, and kind. He had eyes that seemed to hold the entire sky, and a silence that comforted even the most weary hearts. While other young men laughed and mocked, Kale helped the elderly, carried water, tended sheep, and smiled even when insulted. He never complained, never retaliated. Over time, his sheep grew healthier, his land flourished even in bad times, and soon the murmurs began. He must use spells. No one is so lucky. There's something strange about this boy. Envy is like a fog. It appears slowly, but blinds quickly. When the drought came, it was like a punishment. The rivers disappeared, the wells dried up, the ground cracked, the crops died. Despair gripped the village. Children cried from hunger, men fought over scraps, but Kyle remained calm. In the silence of the early mornings, he would go down to the barn, grind the little grain he had saved, and go out into the dark streets, leaving jars of milk, bread, and roots at the doors of the houses. He never said a word, never expected a thank you. At dawn, people woke and found food. They believed it was a miracle, but even so, they continued to speak ill of Kale. Until one night, the old village accountant, Miro, saw him, sitting at his window, too weak to sleep. He watched the young man walk through the wind, his face serene and a basket in his hands. The next morning, Miro called everyone to the square, and, with a trembling voice, he declared, "You insult him. You mock him, you despise him, but he was the one who kept your children alive. It was the wind boy who fed you in the shadows of hunger." Silence. No one could look at Kale. Shame weighed more heavily than the drought. And then, the sky darkened, thunder echoed, the clouds, after so long, parted. Rain fell again on the cracked earth. The wind blew again, but this time, gently. Days later, knights appeared on the horizon. Their silver cloaks fluttered in the newly revived wind. One of them raised a banner bearing the same symbol as Kale's cloak, a wing and a flame. The captain dismounted and said, "We seek the heir of Erath, the kingdom of the winds, a prince who disappeared 18 years ago during a storm." When Kyle showed the cloak that had enveloped him as a baby, the knights knelt. The murmur spread through the village. The lost prince. Is he? The next day, the king and queen arrived, old, weary, but with hope in their eyes. Upon seeing Kale, they fell to their knees, weeping. "My son, my wind," the queen whispered. "The heavens have returned you to us." The villagers, gripped by fear, also knelt. They knew what they deserved, royal punishment. But Kyle stood, looked at his parents and said, "If I could forgive them when they hurt me, how could we punish them now?" The power of the wind lies not in destroying, but in transforming what it touches. The king was silent, The queen wept, and forgiveness was granted. The village prospered again. The rains returned. The grasses grew, and Kyle's name echoed throughout the kingdom. But he never forgot Leon and Sora. He took them to live in the palace, where the sound of the wind carried through the halls like an ancient song. They died in peace, surrounded by love and gratitude. Kyle, the Prince of the Wind, ruled not with a sword, but with compassion. And the people finally learned that silent kindness is the force that moves the world. And to this day, when the hills of Arath blow softly, the elders say it is the spirit of the young shepherd, reminding men that cruelty may pass like a storm, but kindness, oh kindness, remains like the eternal wind.